got done watching The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5, and this is going to be my spoiler review for Chapter 21, The Pirate. Wow. A lot to actually talk about, more than I actually initially thought when this episode started what I was going to be talking about with this episode. I was getting a little bit worried with this because we are now way over the midpoint of the season, and now I'm like, okay, where is this hook of per se? And for me, the way that this episode kind of played out, and whether it was nostalgia, cameos, build up, next week's gonna suck waiting for, I'll tell you that right now. But I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section, because if the Force is with you, and definitely if you know the way, this is truly the channel for you guys. I'm one of those crazy people that stays up past midnight to watch this episode right away and put up my review so we can have a great conversation down below in the comment section. Just a little bit of housekeeping: if you are interested in watching like reaction type videos, I do film myself actually watching the episode. That goes over on my second channel, Zach Pope Expanded. You can find the link down below. That reaction will probably be up in the next hour or two. Takes me a little bit longer to edit those. And without further ado, let's jump into this. So this episode opens up and we get to see some, of course, pirates attacking Greef Karga and his entire area of Navarra. We've seen these pirates in the earlier episodes, and there were actually kind of rumors that these pirates per se were actually going to be the villains in Skeleton Crew coming out later this year. Another Star Wars series from the likes of John Watts, the person who just did Spider-Man, and also starring Jude Law. So that looks pretty fun, I guess. I'm not really too interested in that one yet, but it's kind of interesting because, first off, again, this is a spoiler review, they died, so Skeleton Crew must take place before The Mandalorian. But as well, you know, you see him coming over, you see him taking pretty, you know, basic stuff. Did anyone else also notice that, like, the main pirate guy's, like, right-hand man looked like Captain Hook's right-hand man? He's dressed like almost the same way. That has to be an Easter egg. Am I wrong or am I right? But this all ends up with Greef Karga kind of sending out a thing to the captain of the New Republic, our favorite person ever, and he ends up grabbing that, which then he wants to take to the council. Now, before we get to the actual of him going to Coruscant and asking for like aid and assistance and assets, that was Zeb, right? And when I say Zeb, the guy from like the main Zeb from Star Wars Rebels, am I wrong? That was him talking to him. Unless I'm crazy, that is the only species of Zeb that we've seen in quite a while. So, and it sounded just like him. I geeked out, I freaked out, and I was so happy to see that because Zeb is one of my favorite members of the Star Wars Rebels crew, which makes me think that he will be showing up for Ahsoka. I think we are getting the Rebels crew back together for all of Ahsoka. Hopefully, maybe even Captain Rex. I think it's rumored that we're getting Hera in there. We know we're getting Sabine. We know for a fact, of course, we're getting Ahsoka. There's so many good things, but seeing Zeb just put a giant smile on my face, and maybe it wasn't Zeb. Again, I don't really do too much research going into this. So this is like literally the episode just ended, but did anyone else freak out about that? I thought that was cool. Nice little Easter egg there. I hope we get more of them. And of course, you know, he goes to Coruscant. Our friend who hurt Dr. Pershing shows up. And there's a lot of interesting aspects because I think a lot of people's complaints going into the new trilogy was, or the sequel trilogy at least, was how did the Empire sneak up once again? Like, they literally snuck up once again. And we're starting to see a lot of the same troubling issues that, of course, the original, of course, the Jedi Council and many of the good guys in the prequel saga all fell to, in really much not paying attention to the Empire, and there's people pointing it out in that certain direction. And I like how it shows that no matter which era of government that Star Wars and just in general the galaxy of far, far away is dealing with, they're being snooty. They're not looking towards the things, even though when evidence is clearly there. Is it frustrating as a Star Wars fan? Absolutely. Is it cheesy? Kind of? Absolutely. But having her there and then kind of having that opposition, and specifically us knowing as a fan base, knowing where she is at, actually makes episode 3 a little bit more important now. I'm curious to see how that ties in more specifically of what we see at the end of this episode. But it's great to see that he decides, you know what, if you're not going to help, I know who will. He heads out, finds the covert of the Mandalorians, and the Mandalorians threaten him pretty well, and they kind of say, well, now we're going to have to leave, but everything that we've now seen in this season kind of builds up to this point, and while maybe some episodes have really much just been the same basic structure, story, action, go. Story, action, go, and everything's kind of built up to this point, seeing him pretty much say, I know that's your friend, I just want you to know, that way you can go save him. And seeing Din Djarin, Mando himself, have to pretty much tell his entire covert, I'm asking that you guys aid us. And Bo-Katan kind of being right there with him. I love that Paz Vizsla. For a second, I was like, dude, this dude better shut up and not be rude. But he gets up and he stands up for them, and they decide to, and kind of reconcile a mission to go save Navarro, and again, potentially have a home for them. Them heading there and actually seeing the Mandalorians first on take on these pirates was great. It was great seeing a bunch of Mandalorians versus a bunch of pirates. And I love seeing that stuff because, like I've mentioned in the past in other episode reviews, the Mandalorians is my favorite aspect of Star Wars. Whether it was in the Clone Wars and us getting to see Mandalore and getting to see the whole siege of Mandalore in, of course, the final season, these are all things that very much excite me and make me look forward to the future of what they can possibly do with the Mandalorian, specifically because you don't follow them a lot in the original trilogy. And even from there, the sequel trilogy doesn't even acknowledge them, so where are they in this time capsule now? There's been lots of rumors that maybe they end up going to the Greater Beyond, or whatever the hell it's called, from where maybe Thrawn and Ezra are. These are all rumors. Who knows? But seeing that these are kind of the ideas that they are structuring out, and getting to see them kind of be the heroes nowadays is great. Seeing Paz Vizsla jump in and save the other Mandalorians, seeing the Armorer kick some ass, seeing Bo-Katan and Din just flying around, taking out these ships, taking out the main pirates, Grief honoring them and giving them a huge chunk of land. And even though that their home is destroyed, as he mentioned, they now have a home. Which all builds up, which, I gotta mention this, Leo from Geekly Goods. If you've never watched his YouTube channel, absolutely check him out. He's an awesome YouTuber. Me and him were talking, and he said, Zach, did you notice that every episode ends typically on Bo-Katan and something important for her? Now, while this episode did not technically end on Bo-Katan, it ended on a major moment for Bo-Katan. And Paz Vizsla says, hey, the Armorer wants to speak with you. And she goes down there, and the Armorer tells her to remove her damn mask. Which is like, okay. And, you know, Bo's kind of being like, am I going to get in trouble? And Katie Sackhoff, like, plays this so well. And she takes off the mask, and pretty much the Armorer, in a way, believes her. That she is the one that will unite Mandalore. And that will reunite all the Mandalorians once again. She walks out, my jaw almost hit the floor, like, she took her mask off, and she's walking past everyone. Paz Vizsla's like, how, her mask is off. And it kind of just points us that, you know, she believes that she did see the Mythosaur, and that this is the new age of the Mandalorians. And everything kind of building up about this is that this is about Bo-Katan reuniting the Mandalorians. It doesn't matter if she has the Darksaber, it doesn't matter who possesses that, but if she saw the Mythosaur, and she's the one who saw that sign, that can mean everything. And now with 6, 7, and 8 leading out, these are the episodes that now probably give Bo-Katan, and maybe probably even Din joining her, to go out there and recruit all the other Mandalorians and bring them together to reclaim Mandalore, which is very exciting. Ending on that note, I loved seeing the pan into her. Peter Ramsey did a great job directing this. For people who don't know, Peter Ramsey is actually the director of the original Spider-Verse animated film, which is one of my favorite comic book films of all time, and one of my favorite just films of all time. He did a great job directing this movie. He did a great job directing this episode, and I thought that pan-in was such a great point of view, specifically for what Bo-Katan's feeling. And right before we think it's going to end, it cuts to black, fades back into space, and we find out the true thing, that Moff Gideon did escape. But it was from the help of Mandalorians. Which I will say right now, I can't remember the guy's name, but the opposition of Bo-Katan, specifically in the Siege of Mandalore, and certain of those Mandalorians that worked for Maul, I very much am theorizing that they are the ones involved for saving him, and I think they are working for him. And I think now that we have that position that Bo-Katan is supposed to reunite the Mandalorians, she walks 2 worlds. I think that's going to walk a different world, bring back the other Mandalorian she was working with earlier, and possibly have that opposition of these other Mandalorians who have a different idea of what needs to happen. Because we only think it's a small covert. They're all scattered, but who's this other group? I think next week we are getting Giancarlo Esposito finally back as Moff Gideon, and this is getting very, very interesting. Let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are. Again, this is the way. May the Force be with all of you guys on Mando Wednesdays. And again, if you're new here, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because I am crazy, and I want to be just as crazy with you guys every single Wednesday talking the Mandalorian. So, of course, until next time, stay classy.